January 29, 2011, Tampa, Florida. Two police officers arrive at an upscale home in the Ashley Reserve gated community for a wellness check. The grandmother had called, said she'd received a disturbing email from her daughter Julie. Something about being tired of the kids talking back, something about how it would all be over soon. Officers knock on the front door. No answer. They walk around back to the pool area. That's when they see her, a woman lying unconscious on the cement, white bathrobe. She's alive but barely conscious. They ask if they can go inside and check on her children. She says yes. The officers enter the home. What they discover inside will haunt them forever. 16-year-old Calix Schenecker and 13-year-old Bo Schenecker are both gone. The scene makes it immediately clear this was no accident. When the officer asks the mother what happened, Julie Schenecker, former military linguist, wife of an Army colonel, mother of 2 honor students, says something that will haunt everyone who hears it. "My daughter is mouthy. She calls me names." This is the story of Julie Schenecker, a woman who had everything: a successful military career, a husband rising through the ranks, 2 brilliant children with bright futures ahead of them, and how mental illness, left inadequately treated, turned a mother into something unrecognizable. Julie Powers was born October 16, 1960, in Muscatine, Iowa. Picture-perfect childhood in a small Midwestern town. Pretty, popular, athletic, star volleyball player at University of Northern Iowa. Type A personality, extremely competitive. The kind of person who always needed to be the best at everything she tried. Her family life was stable. Middle-class upbringing, supportive parents, no obvious trauma or dysfunction that would predict what would come later. After graduating in 1982 with honors, Julie joined the United States Army. It was an era when women were making significant strides in military service. She was sent to the Defense Language Institute in Monterey, California, to learn Russian, language, culture, politics, military intelligence applications. She excelled at the intensive program. In 1987, she was assigned to military intelligence in Munich, Germany. Her job was fascinating and important. She interviewed refugees from the Soviet Union, gathered intelligence, analyzed information. She was good at her work, very good. Her performance reviews were consistently excellent. That's where she met Parker Schenecker in 1989. He was also in military intelligence, career-focused, rising through the ranks, ambitious, dedicated to service. They bonded over their shared work, their shared commitment to the military. They married October 10, 1992, in a military ceremony. Everything seemed perfect on the surface. The successful military careers, the promise of a stable life together. But beneath that surface, there were already cracks forming. While they were dating, Julie was diagnosed with depression, major depressive disorder. But she kept it secret from most people. She was ashamed of it. In military culture, mental illness was seen as weakness. She only told Parker after they were married, and even then, she minimized it, made it seem like it wasn't a big deal. Parker convinced her to leave the Army in 1994. The military lifestyle was demanding. They wanted to start a family. It made sense for one of them to stay home. Julie agreed. Though leaving her career meant losing a significant part of her identity, September 12, 1994, daughter Calix was born in Germany. A beautiful, healthy baby girl. Julie threw herself into motherhood with the same intensity she'd brought to her military career. September 25, 1997. Son Bo was born in Hawaii, where Parker was stationed at the time. After Beau's birth, Julie suffered terrible postpartum depression. It was severe, debilitating. She went back on antidepressants, but the medication didn't seem to help as much as it should have. Constant military moves made everything worse. Every time Parker got new orders, the family had to uproot. New cities, new houses, new schools for the kids. No ability to put down roots or build lasting friendships. Julie struggled to establish any sense of stability. She'd make friends only to lose them with the next relocation. In 2001, Julie suffered a severe episode that couldn't be ignored any longer. She was hospitalized at a National Institute for Health facility. That's when she was finally diagnosed with the full scope of her condition: bipolar disorder and schizoaffective disorder. These weren't just mood disorders. These conditions meant Julie would alternate between periods of high-level mania, where she felt invincible, talked rapidly, couldn't sleep, and extreme depression, where she couldn't get out of bed. She'd experience loss of contact with reality, states of psychosis where she couldn't distinguish what was real from what was in her mind. For 9 months, Julie remained an inpatient at the facility. It was a long, difficult treatment period. Parker raised the kids with help from his mother and a nanny. The children were young enough that they didn't fully understand why Mommy was gone. By 2005, Julie felt better, significantly better. The medication was working. Therapy was helping. She felt more like herself than she had in years. So much better that she made a decision that would prove catastrophic down the line. She stopped taking her medication. This is tragically common with bipolar disorder. The medication evens out the highs and lows. It stabilizes mood. But it also makes people feel flat, emotionless. They miss the highs, the energy, the creativity, the feeling of being invincible and capable of anything. The medication makes them feel like they're living life in gray instead of color. So they stop taking the pills, convinced they don't need them anymore. After relocating to Maryland in 2005, Julie went through 6 months of intense mania. She was agitated, unable to control her temper over minor things, started developing delusional beliefs about various situations. Her behavior became increasingly erratic. Parker had to force her into Walter Reed Hospital for treatment in early 2006. It was a difficult period for the entire family. The kids were old enough now to understand something was wrong with Mom. That same year, Parker was promoted to colonel, a significant achievement in his career. The family moved to Boiling Springs, Pennsylvania. Surprisingly, this move seemed to help Julie stabilize. Maybe it was the slower pace. Maybe it was being away from the intense military culture. Whatever the reason, the kids were doing well too. Finally able to lay down roots, make lasting friends, feel normal for once. But in 2008, Parker received new orders. He was being stationed in Tampa, Florida. Another move, another relocation, another upheaval. This would prove to be their final move together as a family. In Tampa, Julie discovered German author Eckhart Tolle's work. His self-help book, A New Earth: Awakening to Your Life's Purpose, gave her a new perspective, a new framework for understanding herself and her place in the world. According to Tolle's philosophy, our identities aren't derived from who we are, but from who we want to be. We create our own reality through our consciousness. Julie saw hope in that philosophy. For the first time in years, she felt like she had agency, like she could reshape her reality through spiritual practice and mindfulness. But Julie took something else from Tolle's writings, something deeply troubling. He claimed the end of life was merely an illusion, that it was actually a portal towards true happiness, a transition rather than an ending. For someone with Julie's mental health conditions, this was a dangerous message to internalize. Mental health experts derided Tolley's writing as spiritual mumbo-jumbo without scientific basis. The psychiatric community believed it should never substitute for evidence-based psychotherapy, especially for someone with Julie's serious conditions. People with bipolar disorder and schizoaffective disorder need medication and therapy, not philosophical platitudes. But Julie wasn't interested in what experts thought. She'd found something that made her feel better, something that gave her a sense of control. She embraced Toll's teachings completely. By 2009, Julie had made friends in the Tampa area, joined social groups, felt well enough to take part in charity events and community activities. She even returned to Iowa for her college reunion, reconnecting with old friends from her volleyball days. But her friends from college noticed something off about her. She seemed far less bubbly than they remembered, more subdued, distant. Like the vibrant Julie they knew had been replaced by someone who just looked like her. The energy that had made her so magnetic in college was gone. Without proper medication and psychotherapy, it was always going to be a matter of time before the issues resurfaced. The bipolar disorder doesn't just go away. The schizoaffective disorder doesn't cure itself with positive thinking. The question was when the symptoms would return and how severe the consequences would be. November 6, 2010. Police were called to the Skeneker household to investigate allegations of inappropriate discipline. Calix had reported her mother after Julie allegedly struck her across the face repeatedly during a confrontation in their car. They'd been returning from cross-country practice when they stopped at a store. Calix had purchased something and wouldn't show her mother what it was. Julie became enraged, started striking her daughter in the parking lot. When police investigated, there were no visible injuries on Calix. No bruises, no marks, no physical evidence. Because there was no physical damage, a legal loophole in Florida meant no charges could be filed. The investigation was closed, case dismissed. But this incident shattered the illusion that Julie was doing better, that she was stable, that her mental health was under control. Calix was a smart, perceptive teenager. She knew her mother was getting worse. She'd been applying to boarding schools for the following year, hoping to get accepted somewhere far away. She didn't want to be at home anymore. She needed distance. She needed to feel safe. Friends of Calix had started inviting her to stay overnight more frequently. They could see she needed breaks from the tension at home. Their parents noticed too. Noticed the stress Calix was under. Both Skeneker children were considered star students by everyone who knew them. Excellent grades, good behavior. Star athletes. Calix excelled at cross-country running. Bo was a standout soccer player. Teachers loved them. Coaches praised them. They were kids with bright futures ahead of them. Kids who were doing everything right despite the difficult home situation. But Julie's future was only getting worse. Her mental state was deteriorating rapidly. November 8, 2010. Just 2 days after police had questioned her about the incident with Calix, Julie was in a car accident. Her fault. She was driving under the influence of alcohol and prescription substances. After surgery earlier that year for a medical condition, Julie had been prescribed OxyContin for pain relief. Like millions of Americans who were prescribed this highly addictive opioid, she soon became dependent on it, needed it just to feel normal. On top of that, she'd begun drinking heavily throughout the day. Wine, vodka, whatever was available. Parker was aware of her substance abuse issues. He'd confronted her about it multiple times. He couldn't force her into rehab against her will. She was an adult, but he could try to set boundaries. He'd forbidden her from getting behind the wheel with the kids in the car, made it clear she was not to drive them anywhere. She didn't listen. She did it anyway. And she caused a collision that injured both herself and another driver. She was intoxicated at the time of the accident. Julie was required to enter a 21-day substance treatment program. She completed it, got her certificate. But when she came out, her mental illness symptoms hadn't gotten better. If anything, they were worse. The substance abuse treatment had addressed the addiction, but not the underlying psychiatric conditions. She cut off all contact with friends and family members, stopped answering phone calls, stopped responding to messages, would spend as many as 20 hours a day in bed, curtains drawn, room dark. When she was awake, she remained chronically exhausted. Despite all of this, by Christmas, the household seemed happy again on the surface. Even social workers agreed when they carried out a follow-up visit after the November incident. They interviewed the children, checked in on Julie. Their findings: the children seemed happy and well-adjusted. Julie appeared to be in a better place. Case closed. Just weeks later, Julie would make her plans, would write in her diary about the massacre. But what seemed like a new dawn ended up being only the calm before the storm. January 10th, 2011. Parker received news he was to be deployed to the Middle East immediately. Just 10 days. A routine deployment. Concerned about leaving his wife alone with the kids, he discussed with Julie the idea of asking for a delay. But Julie insisted she would be fine. Said she was doing better. Said she could handle it. Parker's family didn't agree. After he was shipped out, he received an email from several relatives arguing that by leaving Julie behind at such a critical time, he was risking letting her slip again. They were worried, deeply worried. Parker took great offense. In his email response, he made his feelings clear by stating none of them understood the difficulties of being married to a woman who was so broken. That wasn't meant to be a cruel comment about his wife. He was defending her, defending his decision. But the word choice was unfortunate. It could easily be taken the wrong way. When Julie found out an email had been sent and asked to see it, her brother refused to forward it along, refused to show her what Parker had written. That only made Julie start worrying about what could have possibly been in that email. Was her husband unhappy in their marriage? Had he finally gotten tired of her and her issues? Was this a sign he would soon be asking for a separation? These paranoid thoughts consumed her. These thoughts ran through Julie's mind constantly, put tremendous stress on her relationship with her kids. She started seeing their normal teenage behavior as disrespect, as attacks on her. Around this time, she wrote a journal entry stating they were being disrespectful towards her and she was going to have to take care of it. January 22nd, 2011. Julie traveled to a store to make a purchase. She claimed it was for home defense. There had been home invasion incidents in the area. Due to state regulations, the purchase would be delayed by 3 days for a background check. Disappointed, she returned home and left a chilling note in her diary. The massacre will have to be delayed. At this point, Julie had made the decision to end her children's lives, then take her own. The plan was formed. All that remained was carrying it out. Why had she decided this? One suggestion from mental health experts who reviewed the case. Julie was worried Calix and Bo would inherit her mental illness, rather than have them spend their lives suffering like she had. She felt the best thing was to save them from that fate, to release them before they could experience the pain she'd endured. This is called altruistic filicide. A parent taking a child's life in order to save them from something, a life of poverty, abuse, or in this case, inherited illness. It's a delusion, a tragic misunderstanding of Mercy. Even a phone call from Parker wouldn't change her mind. When he spoke to her and asked if everything was okay at home, she said it was fine. Everything was under control. When he informed her he'd be returning home soon, she seemed happy about the news, despite already knowing that by the time he returned, her plan would already be carried out. By now, Julie had completed her purchase following a successful background check. Despite her extensive history of mental illness and multiple hospitalizations, the system had failed to flag her properly. January 27, 2011. She wrote out detailed notes on how she would carry out her plan. She'd wait until the following day. Everything was ready. January 28, 2011. Julie started the morning by getting up early. What would unfold over the next several hours would shock everyone who knew the family. The investigation would later reveal that Julie had carried out the plan she'd written about in her journal. When investigators pieced together the timeline, they discovered what had occurred that morning. Both children were gone. Julie had taken their lives. After it was done, Julie covered each of her children, then sat down at her computer and composed an email to her husband. "Get home soon. We're waiting for you." Was this taunting? Punishment for leaving? Or had she lost grip on reality? The truth is hard to tell. The email she sent to her mother and siblings was equally disturbing. Julie stated she was tired of the kids talking back, made no mention of what had happened, showed no remorse, said it would all be over soon. Before her family could read the message, she ventured to the backyard, sat by the pool, chain smoked, wrote out her reasons in detail. What she wrote contradicted her later claim about worrying over inherited illness. She stated she did this because they were too mouthy, too disrespectful. It was the same thing she'd tell investigators. Getting consistent reasoning would prove impossible. Her statement showed she was detached from reality, something lawyers would later use to argue she wasn't fully accountable. But Julie's plan that evening was to pass away. After sending a rambling text to a friend, she consumed too many prescription pills. It didn't work as planned. By next morning, when Julie's mother read the email, her daughter was still alive, just unconscious by the pool. When her mom called the house, Julie couldn't answer. When calls were made to the kids' phones, they obviously couldn't pick up. Julie's mother contacted police immediately. While Julie awaited trial, Calix's classmates memorialized her by planting a willow tree on campus, something the Harry Potter superfan had always wanted. In August 2012, both sides argued they needed time to review files from the Schenecker home. Parker filed a wrongful outcome civil lawsuit to ensure Julie couldn't access family funds for legal fees. Julie countered by arguing Parker held culpability. He'd known she was dangerous. His decision to leave her alone with the kids represented neglect. That argument didn't hold merit. The criminal trial began in April 2014. Prosecution didn't pursue the harshest penalty. Defense suggested she'd harmed the kids out of fears they'd inherit her illnesses. Also suggested there was inappropriate contact happening. There was zero evidence. It appeared to be delusion or excuse. Despite expert witnesses pushing that bipolar disorder meant she wasn't in control, prosecution countered with journal entries proving premeditation. As they argued, Calix and Bo had been harmed as punishment for Parker. Evidence. Written on the family day planner, Julie had left a note. Bo is in the van. Calix is in her bed, tried to make her comfortable. After less than 2 hours, the jury found her guilty of 2 counts of first-degree homicide on May 15, 2014. One juror stated, "Being mentally ill is not the same as being insane." The fact that Julie kept her plans secret shows she knew what she was doing was wrong. The judge sentenced her to 2 concurrent life sentences without possibility of parole. Julie addressed the court. "I apologize. I take responsibility. I was there. I don't know why." As of 2025, Julie Schenecker is 65 years old. She is incarcerated at Lowell Correctional Institution in Ocala, Florida, the largest women's prison in the United States, serving 2 concurrent life sentences without possibility of parole. In 2018, Schenecker filed a motion for a new trial, claiming her attorneys made critical mistakes. She argued they left out video evidence showing her condition after apprehension. The motion claimed some jurors had slept through parts of the trial. The chances of getting a new trial were not considered very good by legal experts. In 2022, Schenecker was transferred back to Hillsborough County Jail temporarily while pursuing another appeal. That appeal was also denied. Julie maintains she takes responsibility while claiming she doesn't understand why she did what she did. She remains imprisoned at Lowell, where she will spend the rest of her life. Parker Schenecker has moved forward with his life while keeping the memory of his children alive. He created the Calyx and Bow Memorial Fund, which promotes arts, athletics, and altruism in youth by giving scholarships for future leaders, artists, and athletes. After the trial, Parker released a statement. "Today's decision gives my family a great sense of relief. The most important thing is Calyx and Bow, my lovely children, my smart, beautiful, loved, and missed children. Giving them a voice has been my priority throughout this process." Julie Schenecker had everything: a successful military career, a husband who supported her through decades of mental illness, 2 brilliant children with bright futures ahead of them. But mental illness doesn't care what you have. When left inadequately treated, it can turn anyone into someone unrecognizable, someone capable of the unthinkable. Could it have been prevented? Probably yes. And that's the tragedy that makes this case so haunting. November 6th, 2010. Police were called about discipline allegations. Calyx reported being struck repeatedly. No charges filed due to legal loophole. First missed opportunity. November 8th, 2010. Julie caused a collision while intoxicated. She was ordered to enter a substance treatment program, not a psychiatric facility where her mental illness could be properly addressed. Second missed opportunity. Social workers visited multiple times after the November incident. By Christmas, they determined the children seemed happy and Julie appeared to be better. Just weeks later, Julie made her plans and wrote, "The massacre will have to be delayed." Third missed opportunity. When Julie made her purchase on January 22nd, 2011, she lied on the paperwork about having been committed to a mental institution. Despite her extensive psychiatric history, hospitalizations, diagnoses, years of treatment, there was no flag in the system. Fourth missed opportunity. Parker knew his wife was struggling, knew she was drinking heavily, knew she was addicted to OxyContin. He'd forbidden her from driving with the kids. But when he was deployed for just 10 days, he left her alone with Calyx and Bow. Family members emailed their concerns. Parker took offense, stating they didn't understand the difficulties of being married to someone so broken. Could Parker have refused the deployment? Asked for a delay? Had family members stay with Julie and the kids? Yes, he could have. But hindsight is 20/20. Parker had lived with Julie's mental illness for nearly 2 decades. She'd had severe episodes before, been hospitalized before, always came back from the edge. He had no reason to believe this time would be different. Except it was. catastrophically different. Mental illness requires consistent treatment, medication, therapy, support systems, monitoring. Julie had none of these adequately in place when she spiraled. She'd stopped taking her medication years earlier. She'd embraced a self-help author instead of psychiatric care. She'd isolated herself from friends and family. She was abusing alcohol and prescription substances. All warning signs, all red flags, all opportunities for intervention that were missed or ignored. But mental illness is still stigmatized, especially in military families where strength and stoicism are valued above vulnerability, especially for someone like Julie, who viewed her illness as a weakness to be hidden rather than a condition to be managed. If Julie had received proper treatment, consistent medication, regular therapy, close monitoring, would Calix and Bo still be alive? Almost certainly. If the system had flagged Julie's psychiatric history properly, would this have been prevented? Possibly. If Parker had recognized the full severity of Julie's deterioration and refused deployment or arranged for supervision, would his children still be alive? Maybe, but we'll never know. Two brilliant children with their whole lives ahead of them are gone because their mother's broken mind convinced her that taking their lives was somehow merciful, somehow necessary. Calix Skenneker would be 31 years old in 2025. She might have graduated college, become an artist or a writer. She loved Harry Potter and cross-country running. She might have gotten married, had children of her own, lived a full, beautiful life. Bo Skenneker would be 28. He might have gone pro in soccer, followed his father into the military, started a family. He had so much potential, so much life ahead of him. Instead, their lives were cut short by the person who was supposed to protect them above all others. The person whose job it was to keep them safe. The tragedy isn't just what Julie did. It's all the opportunities we had, as a mental health system, as a legal system, as family, as neighbors, as a society, to prevent it. And we failed. We failed Calix. We failed Bo. Completely and utterly. Mental health is something we still don't talk about enough. Sure, most people are far more aware of the effects it can have nowadays. But with stigma remaining, many who are struggling can be forced to let their condition worsen without proper care. The Skenneker children are far from the only two people lost, because someone was in a deep mental health crisis. If things continue in the same vein, they won't be the last. We can only hope the public conversation around mental illness becomes more open as time goes by, that the stigma continues to decrease, that systems are put in place to catch people before they fall through the cracks. Because if more people can get correct treatment at crucial times, preventing them from reaching the breaking point Julie reached, that would truly be the best way to honor Calix and Bo's memory. Two bright lights extinguished far too soon, by a mother whose mind broke, and a system that failed to save any of them. Rest in peace, Calix and Bo. You deserved so much better.